Let me start out by thanking everyone for posting their questions and making this video possible. What is something that still gives you the chills to this day about your former life? The only thing that would come close, but is more feelings of disgust, is the fact that I didn't listen to the people who warned me about that life. Is a member allowed to put a drug dealer on record as an associate, and can a member represent a drug dealer at a sit-down? I highly doubt anyone putting a guy on record is going to announce how that person makes his money. Throughout the history of the mob, there's been numerous sit-downs over guys in the drug business. What would happen if the boss of a family, like Joe Bonanno, were to have a child with a Chinese woman or any other race? Could that child ever be made? Hypothetically, if Joe Bonanno was to have a son with a Chinese woman, the kid would be part Sicilian and part Chinese, and that's really where it would end. Here's a related question. Was it a mistake that the mob didn't make non-Italians full members? Why would it be a mistake? This was something created by Italians for Italians. If you're a member and want to borrow money, are you told to keep it in the family, or does it not matter where you get the money? Where you borrow money from is your business, and there's no rule that states you can only borrow money from your family. At the time you were inducted, did you think it was inevitable law enforcement would try to take away your freedom? Anyone inducted into that life should always assume that law enforcement is out there and will eventually be at your door. The following question, I don't really understand. What if the Cavalcante boss, Vinny Ocean Palermo, didn't flip and cooperate with the government? Are you asking if he's still being alive? I honestly have no idea. Here's two food and drink questions. What was your favorite dish to eat at Farmingdale? By Farmingdale, I assume you mean Rosemary's. I had many of good dishes there, and the food was good, but my favorite dish was breaded shrimp, which had a smoky flavor to it. What was your favorite drink to order at the bar in Zio Toto? Back then, I drank Johnny Walker Black on the rocks, which on the advice of my doctor, I no longer drink. If I do have a drink, it'll be a beer or a glass of wine. Was there any birthday traditions you had while in life? Not really. Maybe we'd go to dinner, and that's about it. Are there any areas of criminality, apart from the drug trade, that is prohibited for members of the mob to be involved with? Aside from the drug rule, which has been broken throughout history, I've never personally been told not to get involved in a certain business. When a member is being offered a position, do they have the right to respectfully refuse the position? Yes, positions are not forced on you, but that doesn't mean that someone may not try to persuade you into taking the position, but you can pass on it. With the position naturally comes responsibility, and that's not something everyone wants to deal with. In the words of Scotty Gervasi, may he rest in peace, I like being a soldier. Did you guys assume that the cigar bar you guys hung out at was bugged? And did John own the cigar bar, or did he just go there a lot? Yes, we knew not to talk in there. Well, most of us did. There were also cameras inside, so I, for one, always believed the agents were tapping into the security system and getting live feed on us. We would leave our phones inside and go outside to speak. At least Big John and I did. And he owns the cigar lounge with a guy called Stevie the Jew. You've mentioned in previous videos that you enjoyed listening to old-timers in the life. Who were some of your favorite old-timers to listen to? There were many, but I spent a great deal of time speaking with Dom Trusello, who was definitely a character, and guys like Lenny DiMaria were not only funny, but had a million stories to tell. Believe it or not, Sideburns also had a lot of stories, but wasn't the greatest advice giver, but he's been around. There's another old-timer I'm not going to mention who always gives me great advice. Does the mob still have influence in the San Gennaro feast these days? Throughout the feast history, the mob has always had influence, and I don't believe that's changed in 2024. How do messages get in and out of prison with all the new technology they have? The bosses always seem to know everything going on in the street. To start with, incarcerated bosses don't know everything that's going on in the street. With situations taking place daily, it's impossible for them to know everything. Messages from the street can come from a visitor or through the mail. The mail is opened in most cases and read. But if a person's crafty enough, they can relay their message. While incarcerated, I've had a letter slipped to me by a visitor, read it, and handed it back. Your good friend, who is family by marriage, tu representante, which means boss, is he at any point down the line administration want it, or has a choice. I assume you're speaking about Joey DiBenedetto, and I highly doubt he'll be offered a position and definitely wouldn't accept one. It's been said there is no more commission. So how are disputes settled without these meetings? And were there members of other families like Chicago in prison with you? And how would a member from New York and one from Chicago talk to each other in person if there was no third-party intro? You don't need a commission for the administration of two families to meet and discuss an issue. Also, I was in state prison and wasn't with guys from Chicago. In federal prison, there's usually someone who knows a guy from another state. I've never been in that situation. If there is no third party, I assume a person can reach out and find out about someone, or they just speak to each other regardless. During your time in the life, did you ever aspire to become a captain or part of the administration? I did not. If that opportunity ever presented itself, that's when I would give it thought. Is there a limit to how many guys a captain can have in his crew? It's really up to the administration, but as far as I knew, there was no limit. Dom Trusello told me he had over 30 guys years ago. When you were active, members all use phones, obviously. Were you guys actively using encrypted apps for calls and texting like Telegram and WhatsApp? Back then, I've only heard WhatsApp mentioned, but the best method was not to talk about anything incriminating on the phone. When you were in the life, did you deal with the Colombo family much? And were they as dysfunctional as they were made out to be in the media? I've dealt with a few members on a friendly basis and never knew them to be dysfunctional. Why do many guys go to weddings solo? Are there exceptions where wives are allowed? A guy can bring his wife or girl to a wedding. Most guys don't because there's usually a table full of guys. If the current Lucchese administration gets indicted, would Vicar Musso appoint someone other than the Brooklyn and Bronx faction to the acting boss position? Please remember to like this video if you haven't already. And for anyone who wants to show their appreciation, or more importantly, keep this podcast going, you can do so by the Super Thanks icon down below or the PayPal Cash App links in the video's description. And thank you. In the past, Vic has placed whoever he wanted to in that position. At the moment, I don't believe he would shift the base of power from Brooklyn to another borough. Did Joe Perna or any other Jersey members you knew ever mention any dealings with the DeCavalcante family? I vaguely remember Perna mentioning guys in that family. And considering the close proximity, I'm sure they had dealings with them occasionally. And for the final question, what do you think about people who are fascinated by this subject matter? In all honesty, in the beginning a few years back, I found it all to be strange. But I've come to understand this is something like most hobbies that people enjoy learning and hearing about, and there's nothing wrong with that. But let me shed some light on my definition of a fanboy. To me, a fanboy doesn't equate to anyone who studies the history of the mob and enjoys hearing stories, whether old or current, but rather the people who conduct themselves as parrots and repeat what they hear as fact. And then from the safety of a keyboard, they display their true character as trolls and believe that they are somehow associated to the mob by their acts of cowardness. I've said this numerous times. You could be on social media every day ranting rat this and rat that, but the true blue guys in that life despise social media and look at these people as rats for doing what they're doing.